Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a former Northwestern volleyball player who today gets to sit courtside and call the game she loves. She's a college volleyball analyst for the Big Ten Network, ESPN, and Fox Sports. Thrive Loud listeners coming to us from Chicago, Illinois, Emily Ehman. Emily, welcome to Thrive Loud.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're going to give our kudos to our mutual friend, Anne-Marie Anderson, who was on not too long ago, who is involved with you in broadcasting and collaborations and all the stuff that you guys do. I want to do a little bit of a rewind. Emily, I don't want to go all the way back to the womb, but I kind of want to go back and understand how you got to live your passion out. Share with the listeners a little bit about how we got from being on the court to commentating on what you do.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually knew that I wanted to be a commentator or at least a sports broadcaster before I even know that I wanted to play volleyball in college or even, past middle school. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster since I was 9 years old. So for me, I remember going to Indiana basketball games, and my uncle was an ESPN college basketball analyst. And so I would follow him around, follow all the sideline reporters, and thought it was just the coolest job ever. The fact that I could stay in sports, but I didn't have to play at a high level, or I didn't have to coach. And I knew I never wanted to do either of those things. So once I started playing volleyball around the same age, I started to realize I was pretty good at it at a young age. And then when I started looking for colleges, I really only looked at schools that had good journalism programs because I knew that, yes, while volleyball was really important and that was my passion, I knew that for the next step, I needed to be at a place that was going to set me up to do that. I had a connection at Northwestern and ended up walking on there and had the greatest 4 years of my life. I mean, we were a horrible volleyball program, but it was really fun. And I love my coaches, love my teammates. I did a few internships throughout college. And then when I graduated, it was March of 2020. So quite literally the worst possible time to try to break into sports. Sports were canceled. No one was hiring. I also had just graduated college, and my plan for the spring, having graduated early, was to build out a reel, whether that's covering Northwestern sports or whatever it was, build out something to send to producers to either get feedback on or potentially get a job. Obviously, none of that could happen. So I was in a place where I was applying to jobs I didn't want, like marketing and sales jobs that I can't even fathom doing now. And when those weren't panning out, I'm living at home in my parents' basement. I was like, I need to do something that's going to at least set me apart and get practice doing this, get reps, and build out a reel. So I started a web show called Big Ten Volley Talk, and I would interview Big Ten female athletes, coaches, alumni, literally anyone around volleyball. I just started posting the videos, and I was a pretty good video editor at the time because of the internships that I'd had. But that started taking off, and I pitched myself to a volleyball publication that ended up running it as a digital series. And then I just started building my following in the sport. I pitched myself to Athletes Unlimited to be their digital host for the 2021 inaugural season. I pitched myself to Big Ten Network to be a digital host for them to cover what was kind of the 2020 fall season that moved to the spring. And I just honestly kept pitching myself and having those conversations to further my career in that sense. I ended up in the volleyball space, not in a way that I thought. I originally wanted to be a sideline reporter or a host, which was really all that I saw women doing in the industry. But now that I was down this volleyball path, I realized I loved it. Calling matches was my passion. I realized I was pretty good at it early on. So I kind of dropped all the other sports that I was covering. I was doing sidelines for college football, was doing some basketball as well, and realized I just wanted to focus on volleyball. And now that the sport's exploding, it really helps because I can actually make money year round, and it's a lot of fun.
First of all, I want to state in my knowledgeable ways of volleyball, when I saw who Emily was and I had the chance to connect with her, I've loved volleyball. I played it in college. We had a little chat about this beforehand. It is the ultimate team game. Literally, you were required to have everybody play. It is so much fun and such great action. And I'd say, unfortunately, at least in years past, aside from maybe like the NCAA championship final game that they would air on national TV or whatnot, pretty much the Olympics and beach volleyball would be the most exposure that most people would have to volleyball. But it has definitely blown up. I want to ask, why do you think that is? What has brought it to the forefront, much more so in the last few years than we've had before?
Yeah, I think there's so many reasons why, volleyball is exploding. One is because I think there's been a really big drive and push for just women's sports in general. And I think that's been really exciting that people are realizing, whether you have a male equivalent or not, like female sports are really fun to watch. Volleyball specifically, because it's so fast paced. You only have 10 to 15 seconds between every serve. When you're watching a football game, you have 30, 45 seconds before something happens and so many breaks. It's a classic, like you get to the last 2 minutes of a football game and it feels like it's going to take 45 minutes. Like that doesn't happen in volleyball. It's so fast paced. The action is so exciting and fun to watch. And you realize when you're watching these athletes, they're so athletic, yet graceful and powerful, and all of these things combined that just make them kind of like the ultimate athletes because they have to be able to do everything. But it's been really exciting over the last few years to watch people, grasp onto the sport, and whether they're watching on TV or whether they're watching in person, there's been record growth over the last few seasons, really on every network, whether it's Big Ten Network, the number of games has tripled in the last really 7 or so years. On ESPN, we're seeing the same thing. And growth is astronomical in ways that we haven't seen sports grow in that sense. And it's been really fun to, be a part of and kind of ride that wave because people are taking notice.
Speaking of being a part of something big, can you share with the listeners what you got a chance to be involved with the University of Nebraska, which brings to light what hockey tried to do in bringing hockey into big arenas? They decided to play volleyball in a big arena. Share this with the listeners, what had happened and what the event, and you obviously got to call it.
I mean, this was the crazy experience and something that I never even could have dreamed of. So last August, August of 2023, Nebraska Lincoln put on a Volleyball Day in Nebraska, which was essentially putting volleyball in Memorial Stadium, which is their football stadium that holds just basically over 90,000 people. And because of the volleyball setup, they were able to add even more seats. So they took a volleyball court, threw it in Memorial Stadium, and 92,003 people packed in to watch college volleyball. And I had the chance to call the match, which I found out a few months prior and like literally started sobbing because I was that excited. But I just remember being there the day before, walking in and seeing it empty. Like I started crying because I thought it was the coolest thing that, not just volleyball, but women's sports is being put on this kind of platform. And that 92,000 number was a women's sport world record in history, attendance record. So that was really fun to be a part of. And I mean, there were so many tears. It was so much fun. And really, I think there's no other place that could happen other than Lincoln, Nebraska, because they are the biggest diehard volleyball fans in the world.
So let's briefly talk. I've got a couple of good questions, but I want to talk about specifically the life that you have to go through. There's some really good parts about doing what you have to do. And then there's some things that are quite frustrating. People need to see this. Maybe we'll put a link in the show notes to this. Emily documented her travel this past season and where she went in a very cool graphic way to all the different universities and the games that she did. You're on the road a lot. No?
I am on the road more than I'm at home. I just got back from basically being gone for a month. I was home for one singular day for which was literally last night for the first time in a month. So yes, I am on the road constantly, but that's part of this job. And people always say being busy in this industry is good because that means, not necessarily that you've made it, but that means you're doing really well and at least you have work. For me, the college volleyball season is where I'm working the most, where I make the most money. Basically, I'm gone 4 or 5 days a week, calling anywhere from 2 to 4 matches during the week. And they're all on site. So, I'm putting travel days in there. Sometimes I have to travel the day of to some matches, or I'll drive after a match, have to drive 4 hours to the next place so I can get there in time for morning practices. It's definitely a grind. And I will say that basically 19,000-mile number from the fall was only for the fall. That didn't even count my summer travel where we went all over the world. So yeah, it's a job where I'm gone all the time, but I really don't even think of it as a job. Like the fact that I get to just talk about volleyball and be at these insane matches and get paid for it, to me is pretty crazy to think that that's a job that I have to do.
Emily, we are in an amazing, weird, confusing time in college sports.
Yeah.
Obviously, the three letters, NIL, have literally changed the economics, the way that people are going to schools. In some cases, we hear mostly about it for the big football and basketball programs on the men's side and in the women's side too. Talk about how it's filtered down into the volleyball space and what you're seeing around it and how it's affected certain programs and schools, at least at the level from what you've been able to see.
Yeah, I mean, NIL in general has been, I think, great for college athletics. But at the same time, it's kind of like the rich get richer. The programs that have been good are naturally pumping a little bit more money into those. So now we're seeing the really good teams get even better. All that to say that we've seen a lot of parity in NCAA volleyball over the past few seasons. But I think this year is really when things are going to separate a little bit, because not only do we have NIL coming in, we also have revenue sharing. And that is something that is not even across the board. Whichever schools get more money, get to decide where to put that money. So a school could essentially give, a football program millions of dollars and give volleyball nothing. And that depends on, how much support you have from your athletic department. That depends on how good your program is. You could be a great program, but at a school that maybe doesn't really care about volleyball. So you're not making as much as some of these other programs. But I will say it's been really cool to see these athletes kind of get the recognition and get paid deservingly so. I'm hearing in the transfer portal from even this past season that players were getting offered upwards of $700,000 for 2 seasons, which I think just like blows people's minds. And that split between NIL money that they can make, through commercials and brand deals and all of that through social media, and then revenue sharing, basically just getting, paid to be there.
Let's talk a little bit about the step beyond college. We know this, and you got a chance to feature this a little bit. There is now more active professional volleyball. Talk about what's going on with that. You got a chance to see one of the cooler venues. I think is it in your neighborhood or not too far away? Like I know you're from Indiana originally, so it's somewhere.
Yeah,
there, right? Yeah.
So I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, and I'm actually working for the Indy Ignite, which is a PVF Pro Volleyball Federation team. There's currently 3 pro leagues going on, which is pretty insane to think about, considering 4 years ago there were none. So there's PVF, which is Pro Volleyball Federation. They have teams all across the country, and it's essentially there's 7 teams, and they essentially work the same as a normal pro league. They have markets, they have home arenas, the players are all there, so you can think of it that way. And then there's League One, or LOVB that people call it, or just Love, and that's a little bit different of a setup. So they have teams all over. A lot of them play on neutral sites. Sometimes they'll play at big club tournaments to kind of like garner viewers and spectators that way. And then there's Athletes Unlimited, which is just a very small professional league season. It happens in the fall. It's about 5 weeks. They've been changing the format of that, but it's kind of like rotating teams in a like fantasy volleyball kind of way. So you're consistently rotating, but it's such a fun time to be a part of because there's 3 professional leagues happening in the US. And before then, if you wanted to play professional volleyball, you had to get shipped to Europe or shipped to Asia or South America to play. And that was really hard on these athletes when you're playing in places where you don't know anyone. A lot of the players and coaches don't even speak English. So you're isolated in that way, and you're so far away from friends and family. So for these athletes, it's so exciting that there are now so many options to play professionally here in the States.
You've had a chance to be behind the mic. You're commentating on the games. You're getting to be around the game that you love. As you sit there in the broadcasting role, do you want to do something other than volleyball maybe in the future?
It's a good question. I actually get this a lot. People ask, like, when do you want to move to college basketball or football or the NFL? I kind of made a decision in my career about a year ago that I didn't really want to start covering those other sports. I was on a trajectory to do so, and I felt pretty good about it. But since I've been in volleyball and kind of had this rise, riding the wave of how the sport's exploding, it's allowed me opportunities that I never would have thought of. It's allowed my career to explode in ways I also could have never thought of. Now that there's professional leagues happening in the winter, and there's also international professional volleyball happening in the summer that I've been blessed to cover, I can kind of do this thing year round. I always thought for the last few seasons, I had to kind of supplement what I was getting paid to, with working football and working basketball, because I just needed the extra money. Now I'm fortunate enough that my career is in a place, and honestly, volleyball is in a place where I don't have to supplement with these other sports, and I don't really want to. Like, covering the sport that I love and that I feel good at, it has been so much fun, and I'm making enough money to do it. And I can only see that getting better and better. So, for now, like, I'm happy sticking to volleyball.
Love it. I love asking people who are thriving this question. It's why you're here on the show. You're having most days, you're living your dream. You get to literally be around the game you love, which is why you thrive on most days. Yet we all have those days, Emily, when we're a little off our game and we're not quite kicking on all cylinders. Emily Ehman, when you have trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there are a lot of tough days working as a sports broadcaster. Most of that is because of the travel and just like the load that I carry, especially in the fall. That's my busy season when I'm gone for 4 or 5 days a week, calling an insane amount of games, working like 60, 80-hour weeks. There's a lot of times where I'm not feeling great. And for me, something that really helps is making sure I get a workout in, which sounds very basic. And I think oftentimes well, I don't have time to spare an hour to do that. But when I do it, it really gets me on a better track. I feel more motivated. I'm more energized. I just feel better in general. Other than that, I call my mom all the time. She's like my best friend. Her and my dad, like, I talk to them probably every other day, whether it's when I'm traveling or, just in my hotel room, wherever I am across the country. That really helps me out too.
Awesome. Emily, let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, social handles. We will put it in the show note. It gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, half my job is TV, so you can find me, ESPN, Fox, BTN. And then the other half of my job's on social. So you can find me at Emily Ehman, EMILYEHMAN on Instagram and Twitter.
See, I love when it's easy and they've got it all down, really, really quick. All right, we're going to do Fun Street. I've got a couple of little curveballs, or shall we say like swerve balls might be more appropriate here, along the way. And I know you can handle it. Let's start off with this. Do you have an all-time favorite movie?
Oh, yes. I would say my all-time favorite movie is School of Rock, which sounds pretty lame, but I think Jack Black is absolutely hilarious. And that's like one of the earliest movies that I remember seeing, and I think I know every single word.
The movie's really good.
It's good.
It's really good and really funny, but even more impressively is like I love when he's just being him with the kids playing music, because you could see how much he loves music. So he got to like be in the ultimate sandbox for him. You could see it.
So and two of the cast members, who were like 8 at the time, just got married, and so I feel like my feed's now flooded with like these people when they're older at this wedding, and it's just like the greatest thing ever.
All right, we're going to go down the Speakeasy Pub Crawl. First thing that comes to your mind, these are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good. Basically, they make you thrive. Here we go. Of late, Emily, is there a song that you love, or maybe it's your jam right now?
Oh, I've been listening to the Short and Sweet album by Sabrina Carpenter. Like, I can't even pick a song, just the whole thing. Like, it's upbeat, gets me going. My roommate and I just play it throughout the day. So I would say, honestly, just like that whole album has been on repeat for months.
Favorite food that's not a dessert?
Ooh, pasta for sure. Probably like a cacio e pepe or rigatoni vodka. I love. Anything Italian, bury me in that.
Favorite dessert?
Probably tiramisu or like a good like chocolate mousse.
Okay, got it. We got a little Italian. We got a little French. I like where it goes.
Yeah.
An activity you wish you did more of?
Ooh. This is going to sound dumb. I wish that I could just like sit and watch TV, which sounds really dumb. But honestly, like if I could sit down and catch up on shows or catch up on movies, I would be thrilled. And maybe that's not like an activity. It's kind of like the anti-activity. But I feel like because I'm always moving around, honestly, I wish that I could just chill out more.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Oh gosh. I mean, checking my phone, I feel like that's probably the normal answer. Like, I got to be better about it. First thing I wake up, I need to not just be in my phone for 15 minutes. And before I go to sleep, I know there's so many studies that have told me not to, but I haven't grasped it yet. I can't do it.
A new activity that Emily Ehman has recently tried that she likes so much, she wants to tell all our listeners and viewers to try.
Ooh, I recently started doing yoga, which I really like. I prefer hot yoga that's like a little more upbeat, not like the stretchy kind of yoga, more of like a Pilates kind of yoga, but I really like it. I think it's like great for me mentally, and I get a good sweat, and it feels like a good workout. So I love doing that.
Where was your favorite place to play volleyball when you competed for Northwestern?
Good question. Favorite place to play? Again, we didn't win a lot, so that didn't help. So no place I would say was like that fun. But I really liked playing at Nebraska. I think, they have a state-of-the-art facility. It seats, basically the most in the country consistently. They've sold out nearly 350 consecutive times. So just knowing that there's that many people there that support the sport, I think was really cool to walk into.
Favorite variation of volleyball that you like to play, meaning other than sixes, which is what you played in college, what's your other favorite thing to play?
Yeah, I'd probably say like triples and beach. That only works when I feel like you have people that can do that. But I know we've been a part of some pickup games out here on the beach in Chicago that have just been an absolute blast. So that's probably something this summer that I need to do more when I'm actually home.
Before I get to the second to last question here, I want to ask you, when you watch the games that you are commentating as someone who's recently played, is there a little bit of like, oh, wow, I can't believe what I'm watching, how good this is? Or, oh my God, I wish I was out there?
I feel like I was done playing when I was done. Like no part of me wanted to keep going. I think I was pretty burnt out, honestly, probably by like my junior year. I love being on this side of it. No part of me wants to be like, I want to be in the action. Also because no part of me could have ever done that too. Like these players are so good and I was very much not up to that level. So I'm good on this side of things, and I'm good in my rec leagues on the beach in the summer.
Emily Ehman, if I could snap my fingers and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Ooh, probably I just got back from a ski trip. So honestly, I would love to teleport back there. Put me in Vail.
Love it. Emily Ehman, Big Ten Network, ESPN, Fox, wherever you see her, behind the mic, on all the volleyball channels. If you're into it, check her out. She's awesome. She's fun, and she really loves the game. Thank you for doing what you're doing, living your dream, and more notably, for coming on the show today. It's great to connect with you.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Is it that sweet? I guess so. That's that me espresso.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.